Welcome back to our news bulletin. We start from Afghanistan, where 25 members of the Afghan security forces have been killed in an attack on a checkpoint in southern Zabul province. Head of Zabul's provincial council, Atajan Haq Bayan, says 8 policemen aided the attackers. Bayan said the Afghan army and the police manned the attacked outpost. He alleged that the attackers had connections to the Taliban. Zabul governor says the police infiltrators opened fire on security forces while they were asleep. The raid comes a day after Afghan Defense Minister Asadullah Khalid said the forces were switching from defensive to active status against militants. Meanwhile, Kabul has asked the Taliban to commit to a ceasefire to help tackle the novel coronavirus pandemic in Afghanistan. Defense Minister Asadullah Khalid says it will be in the best interest of the country to let the government focus on public health. Khalid warned that security forces will respond to continued insurgent attacks. He said a ceasefire will help prevent the spread of disease and treat people in the country. Health officials have confirmed 22 infection cases, but only about 300 people have been tested in the country of some 35 million people. The U.S. state of California has issued a stay-at-home order to contain the spread of the new coronavirus. Italy has reported 427 new deaths and Iran reported 149 over the last 24 hours. This report will now tell you more.
The global death toll by the new coronavirus has risen to over 10,000 as it hits Europe and America with full force. Haiti and Portugal are the latest to declare a state of emergency over the outbreak, closing borders and imposing curfew. The US has reported more than 14,000 infections and over 200 deaths, mostly in Washington state, New York, and California. California Governor Gavin Newsom says his decision of partial curfew will be looked back in history as pivotal.
This is a moment we need to make tough decisions. This is a moment where we need some straight talk and we need to tell people the truth. We need to bend the curve in the state of California. And in order to do that, we need to recognize the reality.
As the rest of the world scrambles to contain the pandemic, over in China, no new cases have been registered for a second straight day. But the disease first identified in China's Wuhan has rapidly spread to more than 160 countries. In Chile, 15 political parties have agreed to postpone an upcoming plebiscite on whether to draft a new constitution.
Because as we have pointed out, as the president, as the government have said, and as all Chileans feel, today the main priority, the main concern, and all efforts have to be dedicated to being able to take care of people's health.
After France deployed 100,000 police, Malaysia and Germany have also called on their army to help enforce the shutdowns.
In a similar development, the UK has taken emergency measures to contain the COVID-19 fallout as the country's death toll jumped by 40% in a day to 144. The Ministry of Defence has placed 20,000 military personnel on standby, ready to be deployed in streets, hospitals and other key sites. London's Transport Authority said it will close up to 40 underground train stations until further notice. London announced it was relaxing competition laws to allow cooperation between supermarkets and ensure supplies to the public were adequate amid panic buying. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said London has to impose stricter measures in order to force compliance with government's advice.
Conscious as the days have gone by that people will want to know how long we are expecting them to keep it up. And I wanted to try to say something today about how I see the timescale of this campaign and where we're going and what we need to do. And I do think, looking at it all, that we can turn the tide.
The COVID-19 spread has hit Britain's pillar industries such as tourism, leisure and entertainment, retail, which is expected to slow down economy. In a related development, the US says it is giving Pakistan $1 million to fight the new coronavirus pandemic. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs, Alice Wells, says the US and Pakistan are long-standing partners. She said the funding under US aid program will bolster monitoring and rapid response against coronavirus. Wells said this aid is an initial amount. She said over 100 US-trained Pakistani medics are investigating COVID-19 cases in the northern Gilgit-Baltistan region and Punjab province. Moving on, 30 soldiers have been killed and 5 others wounded in a suspected militant attack in the north of Mali. It is the deadliest attack on the Malian army in 4 months. The army says the attack took place at a military camp in Tarkent, north of Gao. Other than today's attack, in 2 months, militants have killed 9 soldiers and injured 15 in multiple assaults. In November, 50 Malian soldiers were killed in a similar attack on a military post in the northeast. President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita says his government is seeking talks with extremist groups to end the insurgency engulfing the country since 2012. The UN's Libya mission has condemned a suspected attack by LNA forces that killed 9 people in the country's west. The shelling follows international pleas for a humanitarian truce to help fight against the coronavirus. In a statement, the mission said 4 girls between the ages of 14 to 20 were among those killed in the attack in Anzara. The mission said they were killed during indiscriminate shelling on a civilian neighborhood. Fighting between the Government of National Accord forces and Haftar militia has resumed since Tuesday. Libya has not yet confirmed any cases of the coronavirus, but the country's Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization have warned that it lacks testing capacity and is not prepared for an outbreak. Turkey says it has killed 4 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in northern Syria. The Defense Ministry says the fighters were killed during Operation Peace Spring. The ministry said it will not stop operations against militants in the region. Since 2016, Turkey has launched a trio of operations across its border into northern Syria. Ankara holds the fighter group responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year terror campaign. Yemen's Houthi rebels claim they have intercepted several warplanes belonging to the government coalition in Marib Governorate. Houthi spokesperson Yahya Sareh says the air defense systems confronted a combat formation over Surwa district. Sareh said warplanes were forced to leave before carrying out any hostilities. He said the domestically built fighter A surface-to-air missile defense system was used in the operation. Yemen has been entangled in violence since 2014 after Houthi rebels overran much of the country, including the capital Sana'a. The UN says tens of thousands of Yemenis have been killed since then, while another 14 million are at risk of starvation. In Israel, hundreds of people have protested outside the parliament against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for exploiting the coronavirus crisis. The demonstrators accuse Netanyahu of taking advantage of the pandemic to solidify his power. In recent days, Netanyahu and his surrogates have shut down Israel's court system in advance of his trial on corruption charges. They are using phone surveillance technology on the public and have adjourned parliament until next week. The demonstrators defied restrictions on large gatherings to record their protest. They said Netanyahu has undermined Israel's democratic foundations. The protesters chanted, "No to dictatorship, democracy in danger," and called on Netanyahu, the Prime Minister. Police say they have arrested 3 people for violating a ban on gatherings of more than 10 people. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says the country will need to boost production by at least 10 times to meet its needs. Addressing the nation at the eve of the Iranian New Year, Khamenei praised the resolve of the people, but said the country fell far behind its economic targets. The Iranian Supreme Leader paid rich tribute to assassinated General Qasem Soleimani and said his sacrifice has reshaped the future of the region. Khamenei slammed the US for its interventionist policies and said that the America's terrorist actions in the region will be brought to an end. He praised the Iranian nation's resolve to fight the new coronavirus pandemic and urged the people to stay united to get through testing times. In a bid to completely annex occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian government has ordered implementation of 37 central laws in the territory. The laws include key acts like All India Services Act, the Census Act, and Services Tax Act. The order issued by Union Ministry of Home Affairs has been notified in the Gazette of India. Officials said the new order will be called the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Order 2020. The provisions will be implemented with immediate effect in the occupied territory. Congress Chief Minister of India Central Madhya Pradesh State Kamal Nath has resigned ahead of a confidence vote in the State Assembly. The resignation comes after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP managed to break off 22 Congress MPs, including the key leader Jyotiraditya Scindia. Addressing a press conference in Bhopal, Nath accused the BJP of horse trading and ambushing democracy. He said the BJP failed to serve the people of the state, who will not forgive these greedy and rebellious politicians. He said Modi's party lost the election by a landslide, which is why it backstabbed democracy for its greed for power. The ex-chief minister says BJP and the turncoat MPs have not betrayed him, but the people of Madhya Pradesh. In India, 4 convicts of the 2012 gang rape and murder of a New Delhi student have been hanged today morning. The gruesome rape and murder of 23-year-old Jyoti Singh by 6 men in a moving bus in Delhi sparked nationwide demonstrations in India. Welcoming the decision, Singh's mother said her daughter's soul will finally rest in peace. In 2013, the main accused Ram Singh was found dead in his prison cell, with officials declaring it a suicide. A juvenile convict of the crime was sentenced to 3 years in a correctional facility. The incident brought the high rates of violence against women in the country into the limelight once again. Under pressure, the government introduced harsher penalties for rapists and death penalty for repeat offenders. We're taking a short break, but coming up in the news bulletin we have pandemic delays, NASA's return to moon plan. Film festival postponed until late June. Welcome back. As the coronavirus crisis exacerbates, Saudi Arabia has halted entry and prayers in the outer courtyards of the 2 holy mosques in Mecca and Medina. In a statement, officials said the move is a part of precautionary and preventive measures to contain the spread of COVID-19. The kingdom has suspended all buses, taxis, trains, and domestic flights for 14 days, except those operating for humanitarian assistance. Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz warned that the crisis will worsen in the coming days.
We are going through a difficult stage, like same as the whole world, and I also tell you that the next stage will be more difficult at the global level to face the rapid spread of this pandemic.
The Saudi Health Ministry has confirmed 274 infection cases and no deaths so far. Moving towards South Africa, which says it will erect 40 kilometers of a fence along its border with Zimbabwe to keep out undocumented migrants and those infected. Public Works Minister Patricia de Lille said the installation is part of the response in combating the COVID-19. De Lille said the fence will be erected on either side of the Bethlehem land port of entry. The minister said the construction will take 1 month and cost just over $2 million. Earlier this week, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa said 35 of 53 land entry points will be closed in a bid to contain virus transmission. NASA has announced to shut down 2 of its space centers, dealing a blow to its plan to return Americans to the moon by 2024. In a statement, Administrator Jim Baranzine said rocket production facilities are temporarily closed after an employee tested positive for coronavirus. NASA aims to launch the SLS rocket and Orion capsule with a crew on board by 2023. A third mission will carry astronauts to the South Pole of the moon by the end of 2024. NASA astronauts have relied on Russia's Soyuz rocket to get to and from the International Space Station. The Cannes Film Festival scheduled for May has been postponed until late June. The Cannes board said they were rescheduling the 12-day festival in light of the severity of the coronavirus pandemic. Last week, director of the festival, Thierry Froment, said that an event planned for May should not be seen through the lens of March. Doubts still remain about whether Cannes will be able to go ahead with film shoots halted or called off across the world. Several other smaller film festivals, including Tribeca, SXSW, and Edinburgh, have already been cancelled or put back. The Bank of England has slashed interest rate to a historic low of near zero in its 325-year history. This is an attempt to support UK economy amid the coronavirus pandemic. It is the second cut in interest rates in just over a week, bringing them down to 0.1%. The bank said it will also increase its holdings and buy back corporate bonds worth $200 billion in an effort to ease liquidity. Meanwhile, the profits of Germany's biggest airline, Lufthansa, dropped by 44% to nearly $1.5 billion as the airline struggles with COVID-19 fallout. The chairman of the Lufthansa's executive board said the virus has placed global economy and the company in an unprecedented emergency. Lufthansa stocks have lost over 46% during the last 4 weeks. Walmart says it is planning to hire 150,000 people to meet increased demand during the coronavirus crisis. The U.S. retail giant said it will also pay more than $365 million in bonuses. Walmart said the new hiring will be temporary at first, but many will convert to permanent roles over time. The firm said it will pay $300 bonuses to full-time employees and $150 to those who work part-time. The hiring drive comes as lockdown measures in various U.S. states to curb the spread of the virus have led people to order more online. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, top brands and outlets have announced surprise online sales to encourage people to stay home. European markets have extended their gains on a second consecutive day amid massive global stimulus measures. Region stocks have picked up fresh rally despite liquidity crunch and trembling sentiments. Frankfurt DAX has gained over 5% as manufacturer Osram Licht stocks jump over 24%. CAC 40 in Paris is trading over 2% higher. London's FTSE 100 has gained over 2.5% as Virgin Money shares surged 33%, while Wood Group stocks soared 24%. In Asia, Seoul's Kospi gained about 7.5%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng closed over 5% higher. Shanghai Composite closed over 1.5% higher, while Nikkei 225 lost over 1%. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil price has surged over 6% after recording historic lows earlier this week. Extreme floods in Ecuador's Amazon has left hundreds homeless in the indigenous communities by the Bambuzana River. Indigenous communities say government agencies are using public funds for combating coronavirus. They say they have been left exposed and vulnerable to the effects of climate change.
People's homes have been left underwater, and many of them have been completely destroyed, which means that people have been left without their homes. They have lost all their belongings, and they have also lost their fields that were close to the river. It's important to know that this has everything to do with climate change.
Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.